Welcome to our very first episode of the ASME Insights podcast. On ASME Insights, we'll be interviewing leaders in the engineering field and exploring how ASME is staying at the forefront of engineering innovation. I'm your host, Lester Sue, ASME's 144th president, and I'm excited to start this journey with you as we dive into the future of engineering. Today, I'm joined by two incredible guests to discuss how we can build a resilient engineering future. The first guest is Dr. Calvin Mackie, an award-winning inventor, author, former engineering professor, speaker, and entrepreneur. He is the founder and CEO of STEM NOLA and STEM Global Action, a nonprofit organization with the goal to inspire and engage communities in learning about opportunities in STEM. Dr. Mackie is also a keynote speaker for ASME's upcoming IMECE conference, running from November 16th to the 20th in Memphis, Tennessee. Speaking of IMECE, in the second half of this episode, I will be interviewing Dr. Akin Keskin, our IMECE conference chair. Akin will cover some of the exciting opportunities we have to look forward to at IMECE this year. But first, Dr. Mackie, welcome. It's great to have you on the show.
Welcome, Lester. Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Mackie, we're excited to have you as a keynote speaker at this year's IMECE conference. Your keynote is titled, "Tinkerers of Today are the Innovators of Tomorrow." What does that phrase mean to you?
I will never forget, I was 9 years old, and my uncle had visited from California. He and my dad was in a floor, drinking libations and telling those stories. But he had brought me in an erector set. While he and my dad sat there talking and laughing, I took this erector set and I built a little car. And after I built the car, I turned it on and the car ran across the floor. My uncle jumped up and said, "That boy is going to be an engineer." At that time, I didn't know what it was. I couldn't spell it. I'd never met one. But today I sit here with 3 mechanical engineering degrees. And it came from that moment when my uncle called me an engineer, and I began to tinker and make things for the rest of my life. And I'm a just firm believer that hands-on mean minds-on. And we must make sure that our kids are tinkering, they're engaging, they're working on things, they're putting things together, taking things apart, challenging themselves to understand how things work. And I believe those are the people that will be the innovators of tomorrow.
So I love that story, but let me dig into this a little further, because I look over your extensive qualifications and CV, and buried in there is the fact that you also have a math degree, right? So you apparently can't just be a tinkerer, right? There is the need to educate, which I suppose is behind your interest in STEM education.
There's no doubt. I'm a firm believer that the man or woman who doesn't have skills asks people how much they pay, and the man or woman who does have skills tell people how much they charge. So we have to make sure that our kids have the skills to pay the bills in the 21st century. So when we say we want innovators, creators, and makers, there's a set of skills that all kids must have. It's not enough to just be able to use your hands, take things apart, and put it back together. You have to know the how, but you got to know the why. And the why is the math, the physics, the laws of nature that otherwise govern the phenomena that we see.
So let me dig a little further into your career. So if you look at the early part of your career, you just seem to be on the fast track. I won't say just, but you seem to be on the fast track to being an academic star, right? You got your PhD, you had a faculty position, but then you moved into other pursuits and working with K-12 students. And I'm just kind of curious, what motivated that change?
Lester, if I'm honest with myself, when I was in graduate school, I wrote an article at the time for a magazine called Black Collegiate Magazine. And I talked about that I was more interested in the human capital. I was more interested in developing the human capital than developing the technical capital. So the whole time that I was a researcher, which I had been trained to do, I had a precipitous interest in the people aspect. And in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, I was at Tulane University, a tenured faculty member, and Tulane decided to downsize his engineering school. So I had a decision to make. Do I continue in the academy, or do I go pursue this passion of my heart? And I tell people I left the university to create a communiversity, because I knew then that the solution that I was trying to develop, the things that I felt we needed to develop the workforce pipeline of the 21st century, in my heart of hearts, I believe is just not in research institutions. It's not who they are. So I say I left the university to create a communiversity, to go out into communities and create processes to make sure that all children, regardless of their zip code, or their socioeconomic background, race, or gender, will be exposed to science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, in the communities where they live, such that one day, Lester, they can be having a podcast and talking to each other like you and I.
All right, that's really well put, Calvin. So I want to actually, so you point out that, research universities, their mission is not necessarily consistent with a deep commitment to learning at the lower levels. And I think that's probably true. If you look at the time demands that are placed on researchers at major universities, it would be very hard for them to engage seriously in community level education. But I don't want to be too pessimistic about that, because there's certainly a role to play. And I'm curious. So you made a massive change in your career, and there are plenty of other eminent researchers out there that are like you are interested in contributing in some way to the development of the nation's youth and their education. What kind of role can they play if they are maintaining their careers, say at major research universities? How can they get involved in K-12?
Hey, Lester, thank you for reframing that, because I definitely don't want to infer that there's not a role to be played. As a matter of fact, when I left, I wanted to create the platform so that people at research institutions can play the role that we know that they can play. These are brilliant people doing brilliant work with insight into the future that every community and all kids deserve. But what they don't have is the time, and they don't have the access to these communities. So what we've done is that we've built a process and platform such that a professor, graduate students, or people at research institutions can show up. Our whole goal is to marshal the human capital and the technical capital back into communities such that the two can gain and learn from each other. So what the researchers and the institutions are missing is access to the community. What we're doing is creating that access, for lack of a better word, a platform, a door, such that professors and institutions can walk through and then provide the community with what they need efficiently and effectively, and then return back to the institution and do the things that they know they have to do. So to the researcher out there and to the professors out there, first and foremost, you have to find a community partner that otherwise has the trust of the community, has access to the community, such that they can introduce you to the community, such that you can provide the knowledge that you have. And not to belabor the question, but I realized that was my gift. I mean, I was a researcher, I was a good researcher, but I believe what I had to offer, the apparatus of research institutions, is to create this platform such that any institution or any researcher that want to do more can do it effectively and efficiently without impeding their progress as a researcher.
That's fantastic. So, Calvin, there's an obvious connection between faculty members and K-12 just because the educational theme is in common. But, most practicing engineers aren't in academia. And so there are plenty of practicing engineers who are working out there at engineering firms. They're entrepreneurs, they're working engineers at large companies, small companies. How can they get involved in the K-12 education apparatus?
During my whole career, I would meet a lot of people. And one thing that I'm certain of, most people want to give back. They just don't know how. And again, this goes back to how do we create a process, a platform, such that people can engage when they want. Engineers have their jobs, they have their families, they have other obligations. So at STEM NOLA and STEM Global Action, what we do, we say we've created a high-functioning STEM community, just child and community-centered, adult-governed, elder-ruled. So we go into the community, we engage the families in the communities, we surround the families in the community with college students, and then we surround the college students with our professional volunteers, those engineers who want to give back. The engineers love it because when they show up, we don't expect them to do anything that they're not. They're engineers. They're not carrying boxes. They just need to show up and be who they are and facilitate activities next to college students for the K-12 kids. So again, to my colleagues that's in industry that want to give back, there are many organizations in your community looking for volunteers like yourself, where you can show up and support them with your time, your talent, or your treasure, and benefit kids in ways that you can't even imagine. But it goes back to a collaborative partnership and finding organizations that's already planted in the community.
I think that's very well put. I think we underestimate the power of not just role models, but examples. I mean, your own story, you pointed out that it was your uncle, I believe, who said, introduced you to the wonders of engineering. And, most kids don't have an adult that can play that role. And I think people need to understand that, it doesn't take a significant contact. You can just pop in on a career day at a school, and that might be enough to fire up a kid's interest who might not otherwise have been exposed to engineering. That leads me actually to a question that I had planned, which was to ask you how you feel that the rapid technological changes in the world have affected how we educate children in STEM. And so what I mean by this is, at universities we can see this. Distractions are just so ubiquitous for kids, right? I used to be able to say, just within the last 10 years, I used to be able to tell kids, no phones, no tablets, no laptops in class, right? But I can't do that anymore because, they're taking notes on a tablet. And God knows what they're doing in class, right? They could be sending messages, they could be watching videos, and I can't police that anymore, right? The competition for their time is so great. Has this changed how you've had to approach your outreach efforts at all? Especially given that we just talked about the distractions that kids have.
Oh, there's no doubt. And that's the title of my article, Tinkerers of Today are the Innovators of Tomorrow. Parents are blown away by the fact that we have these 3.5 hour programs. We have these summer camps, and for hours and on hours, their kids are not on their devices. And the parents can remember when we were growing up and we used to make go-cars and used to make scooters out of 2x4s and skate wheels. And parents want to see their kids engaged like that. As a matter of fact, there was an article written by the New York Times a couple of years ago about how medical schools are dealing with the fact that many of the kids who want to be surgeons don't have the dexterity, or they're too clumsy because they don't have the right training from hands-on activities. So we're living in the attention economy right now. And the WMDs we really have to be worried about is weapons of mass distractions. And our kids have distractions all around them, right? So that's why we believe hands-on mean minds-on, and we give them these kits such that they have to put together, we support them. That teaches them persistence, that teaches them focus. And we just try to get them to hone in on something because we want them to know that's what it's going to take, to achieve what it is that they say they want to achieve. And they don't get that from the digital device. They don't get that from the iPad. They don't get that from the phone. So if we can build those muscles, those focus muscles early on, then kids have stick-to-itness, I guess, for lack of a better word, or persistence later on when you're in your class. It's very difficult now to get kids to focus beyond 5 or 10 minutes. We do it for 3 hours on Saturdays. And I would challenge anybody to go to STEM NOLA and Google our videos, and you can watch kids for 3 hours do STEM activities and then build a boat, build a car, build a bridge, and walk away with it because they see a goal and they want that goal, and we lay out a path for them to get there. And that has to be intentional and consistent throughout K-12 education for them. And it has to be scaffolded, right? 3 hours K through 5 is great, but middle school, we got to do something else. 9th through 12th, we got to do something else such that they understand that's what it takes.
All right, so I want to ask you about your IMECE presentation, actually. So what message are you hoping to convey at IMECE to current engineers about mentoring the next generation?
The title of my presentation is Tinkers of Today are Innovators of Tomorrow. I think all of us should have, as a part of our purpose, is making sure that there are future innovators to take our place when we retire, we're no longer here, to keep this profession going and to serve the public good like ASME has done for over 100 years, right? So I want to encourage every last one of us to know that each and every one of us has something to offer every community in which we're in. No, everyone can't be a Calvin Mackie, and everyone is not going to design a process to engage thousands of kids at a time, but there is a role that you can play. And there is a kid that need to know you, meet you, and see what you are doing such that she can know one day she can be you. So I just want to encourage everybody during my presentation to show that, hey, this is the way we've done it, and this is the way you can do it too, if you so desire.
So Calvin, you're I think totally right. Not everyone can be Calvin Mackie, that's clear. But I think the engineering community, we're very thankful that we have a Calvin Mackie to serve the community the way that you do. And it's been wonderful having you on the show. I look very much forward to seeing your presentation at IMECE. And thank you so much.
Hey, Lester, thank you. Thank you for being a president and your in-depth questions, and thank you for ASME for having me, but for being committed to making sure that we're going to have mechanical engineers forever.
Fantastic. We are the fundamental engineering field. And I think, yeah, that's one of our key messages. So fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. All right. My next guest is Dr. Akin Keskin, who's the Vice President Digital and of Business Aviation at Rolls-Royce Deutschland. And he is also the ASME IMECE Conference Chair this year. Akin, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
So Akin, this year's conference theme is Engineering Innovation for a Resilient Future. What does that phrase mean to you, and what do you think is the significance of having a theme for IMECE?
We introduced a couple of changes this year's IMECE conference, and one of the changes is to have a conference theme. The conference organization committee decided to introduce a theme to make it consistent with some of the other conference products that we have at ASME, but also to basically have an aim and for bringing people together. We know that a lot of people have been attended the conference for many, many years, but we want to attract industry. We want to attract next generation of innovators. And having a theme helps us to focus the discussions and dialogues and the panel and plenary during the conference more towards certain directions. So the conference theme is obviously quite broad, but we want to focus on emerging technologies and how these technologies will help mechanical engineering to position themselves and basically make sure that we have engineers who are ready to take up these new challenges and apply these new technologies in creating new products that will help the world going forward. That's basically what we are trying to do with the theme.
Okay, fantastic. Can you highlight a few standout sessions or keynote speakers that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have 3 keynote speakers. We have Tim Leuven, who will basically kick off the conference with his keynote, and he will focus more on traditional kind of mechanical engineering challenges, so internal flow and how those challenges impact aircraft and power plant technologies going forward. And then we will have obviously Dr. Calvin McKee, who will bring in a different view of how do we mentor, how do we create these talent pipelines, inspire young engineers and young people to take on a STEM or a mechanical engineering career. And then the third keynote speaker will be Mr. Patel. And Mr. Patel will do a little bit kind of future looking, more what type of technologies might happen in the future and how do we position ourselves. And he will talk a little bit about things like remote robotic surgery systems. You already can see that these are technologies and ideas that are not on everybody's daily radar, but these are things that we need to consider because they will come at one point. And the question is, how do we develop technologies and skills in order to overcome these kind of challenges and so on. So I think we have 3 fantastic keynote speakers, all within the theme and touching different areas and from different angles. That's, I think, quite exciting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So yeah, the last speaker you mentioned, Chandrakant Patel, actually is a nice, I think, bridge between our field and IT, because he's a longtime Silicon Valley professional. You know, these engineering fields bleed together. And so it'll be very interesting to see his perspective on ASME and ASME's future. You know, one thing that we've noticed, Doc, in recent years, I don't think anyone needs to be told that the meeting model is changing. It's harder to get people to attend meetings because, mediums like this one make it possible for people to meet remotely. And I think young people especially are very comfortable with this idea of, digital interactions that don't require being in person. And so how will young engineers and early career professionals, those who are less accustomed or less used to the in-person meeting model, how will those engineers and professionals be supported and engaged at IMECE?
Yeah, so we have quite a lot of different events going on throughout the 4 days. In fact, with this, when we start on Sunday, we have pretty much 5 days, almost 5 full days. So there are various initiatives to basically, for instance, for first time attendees to understand, how the whole conference works, what type of events happen, how these different technical sessions are being run. There will also be various events where they can network and talk to ASME leaders or the organization committee members. And then obviously there are events like the poster sessions and then the conference technical sessions or the tours. So a lot of opportunities for people, for young people and first-time attendees, basically to understand how we run the conference and how to network, how to build a relationship or connectivities to other people and organization that will hopefully last more than just a conference and hopefully lifetime network that they can build.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think it's great to know that ASME is forward thinking in the way that we're running these meetings. And so we can keep even the younger generation engaged to see the real value of having these in-person interactions at these technical conferences. And the idea of putting a theme in there to tie everything together, I think is going to be very helpful toward that goal. So I have one last question for you, Akin, which is, where can listeners go to learn more or to get involved with IMECE this year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they should be curious and they should not be shy to contact or talk to people. Obviously, all the volunteers that help us to bring this conference together, whether those are a conference, the organization committee or a session chairs and so on, everybody will be more than happy to support and help. There are opportunities if they're interested to become a volunteer themselves. And then, this could start with helping running a session. This could be, reviewing a paper in the future and things like that. We have a dedicated volunteer section even on our website, IMECE website, and that gives them a first idea. But we all started somewhere in our own voluntary career. And it's, just need to, if they are interested, there are a lot of opportunities we can offer, and just ask and be curious. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I love this energy that we're bringing to the meeting model because, again, I think we're committed to the idea that it's important for the technical community to get together in person to really disseminate ideas and to develop these connections that allow ASME to continue to encourage innovation in mechanical engineering and engineering in general. So thanks so much, Akin. It has been a pleasure talking with you. For those listening, if you would like to learn more about upcoming events from ASME, not just the IMECE that's upcoming in Memphis, just visit asme.org. Take care, everyone.